Right, we are live, just getting set up. So if you are watching this back and this part is playing, that is what's going on. We will get this set up shortly. Sharing the link across my platforms. We will be good to go. That way people can actually join. And we can get the show on the road. Right, we should be getting people in shortly. All right, welcome back, everybody. I will get started drawing in just a second. I'm just getting the post out there. For those of you who were not here last time, this little dragon is a parasite for the road warden or other large dragons. It'll stick his beak in there like an ibis between the scales and extract blood or whatever little fleshy thing's going on. Paperback version of the Codex currently does not exist. It's only in hardback at the moment, but I am exploring a paperback version that will be a little less expensive for people who want to get a more affordable version of the book. So that'll be fun. Probably aiming to get some books printed and shipped in for a nice like holiday release because they'll take a some time to print and then get sent over again from China. So we will have to plan ahead on that. I have not read all today's, but I do want to. I do love the drawings in that. Oh, the physical. Uh, I was selling them on my Etsy, and then Etsy kicked me out of my account because I sold too many and did too well. And I'm still locked out of it to this day, trying to go back and forth with their customer support, not customer support, but seller support channel. And they don't take phone calls, so it has to be all email. And I've been dealing with them for a week now. It's been insane. Like you'd think if someone sells well, they wouldn't kick them out of their platform, but you know, who knows, right? Yeah, we'll be working a little more on the mosquito guy and then whatever other creatures come in to feed on dragons. Yeah, his wings, I'm interested to see if I'm keeping them or not. We will, again, we're just exploring. So, with that in mind, we will begin. Right, let's see. Yes, we are on the right layer. Let's see, right brushes. All right, let's go. So we have our little spider here. He's a symbiotic creature. Let's see. Let's how I don't want to put words in it now. Let's just get break the ice and sort of get going, right? What brush set do I use? I use a lot of the default suite. The what's it called? Gouache and the round brush, but for pencils, I use the Iterating set. It's an older set though. He has a bunch of newer ones. Let's see. Mosquito guy here. We'll get rid of it. We'll keep his leg for now. Let's see. Should copy and paste him because I want to experiment a little more with the mosquito guy without necessarily losing my progress. And that will be that. Again, I'm glad I was able to get the streaming to work. I streamed yesterday, and if you want to catch up on that, that's where I was sort of starting on the thing. You can also watch that here on this channel. But this is going to be a fun one since we're already two drawings deep. Yeah, ibis like that is very intentional. I think parasite wise, yeah, some would be more disease-esque than others. This little guy, he could be. I mean, he's probably not actually mosquito sized. I imagine him something like a small to medium bird in terms of his actual size. But let's see. I like the idea of maybe a blood bag. I don't want him to be too overtly mosquito, but maybe some sort of saggy neck that can inflate when he's all juiced up. Could be fun. But yeah, we're just getting started, so breaking the ice a little, you know, getting those first few brush marks down. Everything's subject to change, but that's the nature of art, right? Let's see. Ah, we'll give him something. Hello, welcome to the stream. I know I do this makes me think if I can get the streaming to reliably work, I could possibly do some of those How to Train Your Dragon fan arts that I've been doing over on my Instagram. Those could be a fun stream topic. Using brand power from a popular franchise. Maybe some little hairs on him or hair-like filaments could be fun. Let's see. I don't know. I don't want to obsess with him too much because I feel like if you, oh, is it still unlisted? Let's see. That's fine. I had it unlisted for the initial launch just in case anything happened in terms of like the quality of the stream, so it wouldn't like, mess up. Here, I'll make it public. Okay, it should be public on now. The hummingbird guy could probably fly. At least that's the idea. He's a little dude, so his flight is not as restrictive as the other guys. I might redo his wing though and use that for another creature. At least this top part here. I don't know. I'll have to experiment with him with him a little bit more. Uh, maybe I'll. What I like to do when I'm uncertain about a design is copy and paste it small so that I don't obsess over the details, and then I can actually sort of go over the bigger shapes without necessarily worrying about, oh, I need to do this line or that line because it's all just small little things. Nice. Welcome all new people to the stream. We're just drawing some critters. Hey, welcome, welcome. I'm glad you guys can catch it. Little parasite creatures going on here. I kind of want his wings to be more insectoid in the sense that they're very spindly or something, almost fragile. I don't want to lean on the insect aesthetic too hard, but I don't know. Yeah, he's got hooked claws to hold down while he's eating. Let's see. Ooh, Wailing Bishop. That's a great choice for favorites. He was my favorite for a while. I had a lot of fun drawing that one. It's really funny. He came real easy to me when I was drawing. Very very fun dragon, very fun like ecology to write too. Yeah, the funny looking long mouth. It is intentionally kind of silly. Uh, but, that's the way of a lot of creatures. I don't know. Like, do I want to give him like a hammerhead? I'm still figuring him out, right? So, uh, you guys are along for the design process. I don't want to obsess too hard over him, but because I do want to do this, the idea of this spread is to be a spread of the different parasites and smaller creatures that would live on dragons or around dragons. I gotta do that quick because my Smogist day is coming up. For those of you who don't know, I'm doing Smogist with some friends, and my days that we assigned each other, mine were asymmetrical and parasite. So I did the asymmetrical creature. I posted him on Instagram, and for parasite, I'm doing, of course, a spread of dragon parasites because I think that's a pretty cool thing. You'd have a bunch of these large animals or large creatures, and something's going to take advantage of that. Hmm. I don't know about segmentation on the body. That might be a little bit too insect-like, but I like getting as close as I can without necessarily crossing that line. Oh, 2005 Skull Island is fantastic. It's probably one of my favorite, I guess you could say speculative evolution settings, because I think it counts in a way. It has my preferred type of spec evo, or not preferred, because I do like it all, right? It's like a great field. But and I have a lot of friends who do all kinds of different approaches to spec. But I'd say 2005 King Kong probably aligns closest to what I do with my world, in that it's informed by reality, but it takes its liberties, and it's not ashamed to take its liberties. And I respect it for that. Yeah, bears. Will I ever draw a bear? I have one that's been sitting in my work in progress folder for probably a year. I don't know why. It's just kind of like it's been sitting there, but it needs to get completed at some point. I need to bring the people their bears. I love bears, and I do think there's a place for them here in the world. I think the thought process I was going with for the bear was uh, something like a therizinosaur. Correlative evolution. That is true. That's what I do. Uh, I get a little bit of mixed reviews on that. Some people think I lean into the rule of cool too much, but I like there to be a variety in the speculative evolution that people can consume. Either the medically clean versions or the little more liberated, I guess you could say rule of cool versions. But it's all done for the same love of the craft. What do you think of this sort of wing outline? I'm not necessarily sold yet, but it's kind of cool. I like how like almost insect-y it is. I feel with cool is a constant. Oh, what are the parasites supposed to be? Well, one is well, I guess the spider isn't necessarily a parasite. He's a like a symbiotic creature. But the other one is a little dragon who takes advantage. Do I get a longer neck? I don't know. I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, we liking this wing shape? I don't know. We'll see. I'm still man, that's the thing with the dragons is I always kind of sit on them for maybe a little bit too long. So maybe I could let this little dragon sit and move on to the next parasite. Uh, he's got little hairs on him. You can see it a little better on this larger drawing. Yeah, this is the less badass version of a cannibalistic dragon. I don't think it would necessarily be cannibalism if they're all different species, but uh, the dragon eating dragon, uh, not necessarily the great Kinsbane, but instead a tiny mosquito. Mm. I also want to do a big filter feeder at some point. I have one, but I want to do another one. Yeah, I'll sit with these two right now, and I'll move on to the next guy. Let's see, go down to the little layers. The Kins annoyer. That's funny. Let's see. I'm thinking, ideating for the next guy. Let's do some unusual parasite thoughts. These are bigger parasites. Maybe a sort of creature with a big head who scrapes the scales off of the dragon and eats them. The wood warden is so big he wouldn't even feel it. So if he eats the smaller scales, that could work out well for him. We'll have more standard worms too. But I'm trying to think of cool, like, and unusual sort of little guys. I don't even know what he is going to be. Maybe I'm thinking a little lizard. Could be a lizard, could be a little amphibian. If I wanted to get really freaky, he'd be a mammal, but I think probably not that. In this, I'll probably do a remaster. I have an old parasite that I hadn't necessarily touched on in a while. It's called the scale tick, and it mimics scales by uh, absorbing the iron in dragon bodies. And it gives a temporary boost to the dragon, not really beknownst to them, but that temporary boost is has a big payoff. Or pay off, pay back. I don't know what you want to say. It's got a big cost. And that cost, of course, is the health of the dragon. I'm not sure what a Zamite is, but if he looks like that, then I will have to change him because I'm not going to be a plagiarist out here. Tongue-eating louse is such a fun one. I enjoy those guys. They're perfectly creepy. They're like a fireproof louse that doesn't get scorched when the dragons breathe fire. Flip it. Canvas gives us a new perspective. I always like flipping the canvas. And when you work traditionally, the version of that is just taking a photo of your canvas or paper, whatever you're working on, and just flipping it. It's not as easy or instantaneous. It's easy, but it's not instantaneous. But it's fine. It gets the job done. Got these little claws that help them hold on, or big claws, I guess. Big for him. Yeah, he's kind of Mireworm-esque. That's kind of the idea with these parasites is to make them sort of not too detailed, because otherwise then they become something else, something that's probably a little too crazy for a parasite. They just got to be enough to get the job done. It's indeed a grouper. Stream is unregistered. I don't know what that. I'm still figuring the streaming thing out. I'm not sure what that means. It just kind of pops up every now and then. But as long as it isn't, I guess, overtly distracting, it's better than nothing. Hey, I'm doing good, Ross. Thank you. Welcome, Phoenix. Hello, Garden Snail. Welcome to the stream. I got 52 people in here. That's awesome. Oh, the background's a paper texture. Sometimes I make them. Other times I forget what this one is. It's either a stock paper background, probably. I kind of lose track. I have like an internal library of the different paper textures I have. Half of them I made. Other ones are based on whatever Photoshop I do to with stock materials to then turn it into this or that to suit my needs. Yeah, I've made a good, most of my paper textures I've made. You just need like a good sort of source for that paper look, and then you can add all the blotches and stains that you want. Yeah, this is like it's shaping up to be a lizard so far. I don't know. I'm still kind of deciding what he is. I'm leaning towards the lizard, but I'm waiting for him to speak to me. This is a lot of my process. Is the creatures sort of speak to me. A lot of the times I have an idea what I want to do, and then that idea changes a lot during collection. Let's see. Yeah, this is going to be all the parasites and all the other creatures that live in the wilder blue. So bone eaters and actually this guy could probably do that too. Uh, he has a big jaw. I don't see why he wouldn't be able to chow down on some bones when more conventional food is not available. Actually, you know, it'd be fun. Instead of giving him four little claws, I could do the thing and give him one just big claw in the middle. That I like that. Gives him a sort of climbing vibe, almost a prehistoric vibe that I don't mind. Nature is the best teacher after all. And they say nature has the best creature designs already. The most we could do is just be inspired. Some skin wrinkles here. So we gotta catch him on chat. This little squishy guy is a little scale eater. He'll sit on the woodwarden's back and just chow down. He is the more stationary, robust counter to the little mosquito guy over here, who's more active. Let's see. I guess we will make him a lizard for now. We've got Endless Ocean to catch you up. We have this little scale eating guy. We have a symbiotic spider that actually eats a lot of parasites. And we have this mosquito dragon. Two versions of him. I'm giving him a little bit to rest before I go back to him. Because I'm not quite satisfied yet, but that is the creative process, right? My dragons normally go through so much iteration before I post them. So this is a very, I suppose, candid approach. I don't have anything like pre-designed to just kind of work on. I'm working from the ground up. Hey, thanks, Nurgle. I appreciate it. Yeah, we're just making some fun little critters. I've been making so many like big dragon artworks for the sequel book to the Codex, and that include dragons, like species charts, like you guys know, but also like more uh, story-based pieces, kind of like that one I did with the Slayer and then all the dragons attacking. I have more of those on the way too, and sometimes it's nice to just kind of wind down and do a little sheet of strange fellas. Hmm. Actually, let's copy paste him as well because I have an idea I want to explore. Actually, how about this? We're gonna behead him for a second. So I want to try something out. Yeah, I have a lot of megafaunal creatures, but I think for me, I've always been interested in the little guys, right? Like the sort of ambient creatures. What gets all the likes is the big guys, but that's why most creators do a lot of that. I think there's some love to be given to these little dudes. Let's see. I'm thinking of giving his head an angle so that when he like chips down that stuff, the force is from that neck. He's like a drill bit. I don't know. I'm figuring him out as I go. Trying not to get too complicated. The endemic creatures I want to be actually fairly simple so that when I end up doing fauna sheets where there's like 8 million of them, I'm not spending forever on all the little details. Let's see. The crag dog, I love him. I need to do more crag dogs. More dogs too. I got that culture of dog breeders, dog breeders, and I think I want to do more dogs that they have made over their time. Yeah, yeah, the machinery to fleshy pipeline for creature designers is so fun. Welcome, Romek. I know you just barely missed yesterday's stream, so I'm glad to see you. Hey, welcome, Galen. Good to see you, man. Ancient Sky Terrors, yeah, possibly. I mean, I don't plan to ditch this setting for like as long as you guys are still interested in it. So, and even then, I'd probably keep it around. So, I'll explore everything there is to explore about the world. Some things I want to keep mysterious, like the Eternal Sandstorm, but other things I will explore as we get on with this world. There's a lot of stories to tell, I think. Brush that I use for sketching, it's the Coterie ink set, sketching set. So he has that on his Patreon. I use a modified version, but it's the same color brush. Overweight gecko. Well, he's a stationary creature, so it sits in one spot and just chows down on dragon skin. So it's going to be a little less limber. Speaking of fat lizards, I want to draw a Gronkle from How to Train Your Dragon soon. Either that or the Light Fury. The Night Fury post did really well, so who knows? Welcome, Cole Paleontology. I appreciate that you like the book, man. Thank you. Oh, gold standard for spec. Oh wow, that's a pretty big title. Thank you. I appreciate that though. It's very kind. I do a very stylized spec. There's some people who think I go a little too far, but I just do me. Yeah, the dragon attempts to remove these parasites will be part of that because I think that's equally fun. A lot of these parasites probably have ways of getting around all the fiery uh, standard methods. So to see how they handle other things would be cool. Ah, thank you, Ali One Kenobi. I had fun doing the Night Fury. It's just such a good design already that it was a quick make too. I didn't have to edit too much, so I wouldn't want to. I think it's perfect. It was more just having fun with that design. Big old lips. Hey there, Cheese Cerrado. You guys get to see how I come up with all these crazy mouth shapes on my dragons. I know I said I wanted something simple, but I just can't help it. Whoa, Romac, that's high praise. Kappa and Monster Garden are some of the coolest guys I've ever met. So it's very kind to put me in the same sentence as them. I've been really enjoying your stuff as well. And to you guys in here, if you want to check out another cool spec, creature design kind of guy, Romek in there has got some pretty cool videos and artwork out about that. Well, 12:26 a.m. Well, thank you for stopping by regardless. That's very kind use of your time. Hey, thank you, Larry. I appreciate that. Yeah, the streaming, I'm really enjoying the streaming. I think it's a great way to shake up my standard video content. And that way you guys get both the normal like exploratory videos that I do, and then now we have some, process, some insight. These are always fun as well, because I have to make the art anyway, right? So I might as well do it with an audience. Hey, no problem, man. Let's see. What does this guy do? He eats dragon scales. So he's got a lot going on with his head, and his head is essentially a big, like a wedge. And that wedge with all these teeth heal up dragon scales, and then he eats them. And he eats scales off of real large species, particularly the woad warden. And that way, it's not like he could just get like kicked off, you know. If he tried it with any more reasonable sized creatures, so his existence is pretty tied to the woad wardens. Did I give him little spikes on his back? I don't know. I'm thinking he's like a kind of a mix of a cleaner and a parasite in the sense that he'll go after dragon scales, but in that pursuit, he'll also eat the old dead dragon scales that tend to be on top and on the surface. So he's good for that, but he also doesn't know when to stop. He's a bit of a glutton. So he'll eat the fresh, tender scales underneath the ones that he just picked up, and that's not always good. So I'd say if you're a woad warden and you have some of these guys on you, they're good to have in moderation. But thankfully, they are eaten up by some of the other residents of this small ecosystem. A lot of these little creatures eat each other. It's like a small world on the back of the woodworm. I think a chapter on that in the sequel book is something I kind of had my eye on as well, which is another reason for creating this page, is what lives on the woodwarden's back. Something I'd imagine some traveler would discover by mistake after walking on a sleeping woodwarden and feeling like, wow, what is all these strange little animals that are scurrying around? Let's see. Yeah, see, that's the thing, right? I think if I'd given him some spikes, would be a good way to ensure that things have a hard time removing him. And that kind of looks cool. But at the same time, he's kind of got a fun, like, chubby vibe going on, like a lizardy vibe without them. It brings focus to this mouth, which I don't hate. Ungulate evolving into a parasite. I think uh, that would need to be some crazy Futures Wild style thing. And it also depends on what kind of setting. If it's one of those like really realistic hard specs, even if it's more fantastical, I think with the right explanation, anything's possible. I mean, ungulates became whales. So if you technically make a parasitic whale, you can do the dinosaurs or birds or reptiles approach and say that technically you have a parasitic whale that is an ungulate. Or if you want a more standard straight up ungulate, the you could have him be, I don't know, really tiny. Depends what he's eating. If it'd have to be maybe a carnivorous. Because is there such thing as a creature parasitizing a plant that isn't just eating the plant? You know, that's an interesting thought. How would a plant parasite work that isn't something like an ivy or a mistletoe that just chokes out the plant? Like, could an animal do that? That's a fun idea. Yeah, the chubby flattened outline. I think that that works best for him because what I'm imagining is giving him some fun colors. Someone in here said he looks oily, and I like that. I think I'll refrain from spikes on him. Maybe he's just so numerous as a type that he doesn't necessarily need spikes. Or he just kind of grabs on, eats a scale, and clampers off to whatever burrow he's able to make on the woodwarden's back. Because the woodwarden does have a sort of landscape element to it with all the plants. Sorry, voice crack. With all the plants on there. So he could probably find a little shelter. Welcome, Derek. Glad you could catch a stream as well. Yes, and while we are getting that smogest pump, man, we got a few of them. I want to make like a creature sheet. For those of you who are new, we are working on all these guys here. Might do some coloring too. Yesterday I started the stream a little later, but today it's 2:47 where I'm at, and I'm free pretty much all day, so I'll just be drawing. Well, if anything, we could even do this again tomorrow. Before my classes start, I've got some free days just to stream. Woodwarden is a new-ish one. He hasn't been featured on the channel yet. He's on my Instagram. Uh, and he wasn't in the first book. So he's like going to be for the second book. But, it's so funny because I was thinking about what to stream, right? I'm doing a dragon that I hadn't even featured on the channel. So maybe Woodwarden for the next creature video? Maybe. I mean, might as well. I'm doing all this. Or would you guys prefer a dedicated video about dragon parasites? See if they tell us. Yeah, like dedicated parasite video. I'm thinking that could be kind of interesting. I could talk about each one of these guys at length instead of kind of cramming it into a larger dragon video. I think I'll do that. And that might be my next, because I'm already making the art, right? Might as well talk about it in some video and talk about them with the proper ecology and But you guys who caught the stream will know. You're like, oh, I saw him work on this, and then you get to see it in the final execution. So I'll probably slap some colors on them as well. Okay, let's try something else with that color. A little better. I'll still mess with it. Yeah, colorful mouth could be fun for this guy. It's a good idea. There's something really pleasing to me about doing a creature that's just so simple in his like execution. He's just this little lizard, and I find him charming. Well, I'm glad that the stream could be a nice little background piece. That's all I could want from it. Especially if you're doing art like you said you were. That's perfect. Something I always keep in mind when doing little free lines like this is to always have them go around the form of the creature. Just kind of gives it some free volume, some free body. Oh yeah, those wing runners love their mounts. They take better care of them than they do other humanoids. 4 a.m. Dang, thank you for stopping by. How much longer will the stream go for? I'll probably keep at it for a good while longer. Why not, right? Last stream was went on for a while. Yesterday's. Oh, like a vampire hyrax. It's not a bad idea. I saw a comment above that said, "Why did I choose the 10 rec for my little dragon eaters?" And the reason for that is I was they kind of take the role of the big cats in the setting. I was gonna do big cats initially, but then I thought those guys are so cool. They took such a fantastic and domineering role in our world, where they are, I'd say, undeniably like the predator of Earth right now. Like in the same way that like their theropods are of the dinosaur era. So the Mesozoic. So why not give another creature its same niche and see how it does? So I chose the Tenrex, the pretty extreme looking little guys and very diverse. So that would be a cool little choice. And I have this idea for the Dragon Products world, which is called the Abervasp, that it's actually a Triassic style extreme radiation, like evolutionary radiation of a prior extinction event. And that's why there's so many diverse animal groups. It is both the sudden evolution of from small little ancestors, something like a tenrec would evolve large, but also the disconnected other groups from eras past of this world that are now all together. Not any time loop stuff, but in terms of like it's whatever animals could survive and then adapt to this new world. And the dragons just took that dominant spot because they could fly and breathe fire. And so everything ends up in an arms race with them. And that's why you get all these weird creatures. So this is like a evolutionary boom in this planet's history right now. It's like the old fantastical era that you read about in a lot of fantasy books. So they say, oh, the old age of myth, but that's the one that these people are currently living. I always was interested in those parts of stories where the mythic age was always in the past. And I suppose they write that because that's how a lot of our actual life feels. But I want to portray that mythic age in its height. So that's what the Dragon Poets is. Giant Hyraxes, maybe, or something like it. Do like a Hyrax. Yeah, Tenrex can evolve into everything. That is so true. Let's see. Hey, yeah, this guy's kind of turning out to be a little charmer. I kind of enjoy him. Hyrax is like a little relative to elephants, to answer that question in the chat. He's of the same group of elephants and manatees and the like. Let's see, as someone making his own dragon world, do you have any small tips or words of wisdom? That's a very good question. I think, huh, that's tough. Is there anything in specific, or if it's just general, I would say do what you like. Uh, your favorite tropes of creature design or dragons or whatever. Make sure you still stay true to what you actually want to do, as well as developing your own voice while doing it. And so then people can look at your art and be like, "Oh, that's so and so's," because that's a great feeling. Uh, to keep in mind how fantastical you want it to get, whether you want it to be more scientific speculative or more fantastical speculative. Uh, I ride the line, right? I do a really fantastical, like fantasy-esque. By fantastical, I mean execution, where I'll have the dragons like breed molten materials, right? Kind of like how to Train Your Dragon does that. But it's like they'll breed molten materials and they'll fly despite being very large. Things, things that wouldn't be necessarily used in speculative evolution experiments. But, I make them work internally, so they follow their own rules. I have a little elephant actually. It's he's in the first book. He's a little forest creature, very small. I probably will do some more elephants at some point. Whether they're big or small, I still have to design. If I could be any group of humans from the Codex, huh? I don't know. Probably, I mean, being an Intermin would be cool because they're fairly relaxed as far as the human groups go. They have a very close partnership with the Frost Giants, meaning they're pretty well protected. They're also fairly large themselves, so they can hold their own. Their only downside is that they live in this icy wasteland, and that their only source of entertainment is music. Uh, that, or I don't know if I'd want to be around the Dragon Riders because they kind of have been evolving into these like jerks. I don't know if I want to be part of that. Maybe just some standard little hive. I think would be fun. Being part of some human hive and like wearing dragon skins and doing all this cool like feral stuff. Like running around and being like, "Oh my goodness, let's throw ourselves to the dragon horde so that we can ascend to the moon and live better in the afterlife." Be a fun, very extreme way of life. This would be a great plush. That's funny. I do want to do kind of expanded merch at some point. I keep meaning to get into merch, and then life gets in the way and distracts me from the merch. Like trying to fix my book sales to have them available again. That's been my whole existence lately. Let's see. Almost tempted to give him the same sort of middle claw treatment on the front arms, but I don't know. I kind of like his like bear claw, but also how funny would it be if we just got rid of all that and just gave him one big like claw. It almost looks like a tardigrade there. Has Etsy given me the book profits? They have not. So on top of making it so I can't access my Etsy, I haven't even gotten paid for the books that sold. I shipped them out, of course, but so people who bought them got them. So thank goodness for that, by the way, because if I had like collected all that money from people who bought the book and then I got shut out and I couldn't actually deliver the book, that would have been terrible. So I was able to thankfully get people what they got. I just can't answer any email or messages. I have a couple messages from people on Etsy and I can't even see the message because I can't get into the account. So that's a little stressful. Have I ever considered writing a novel based on the Codex? Yes. That's one of the things I would like to get into uh, with the non-existent free time I have. But yeah, I would love to write short stories or a novel or novella based on different locations in the setting. True, the wing runners do have the easiest way of life, and for the humans, I imagine they have some of the best health care too, just by virtue of being so comfortable. So that's definitely a factor if you want to live for a long time, and everyone does. That's why the wing runners protect their way of life so ferociously to the point of taking slaves. Anything to make sure that they don't live in those nasty caves again like all their relatives. Oh, nice. A codex short for D&D. Speaking of that, I want to do a official sort of little supplement based on the codex at some point as well. So if you are interested in that kind of thing, that's something to look forward to. A documentary would be so cool. I just need a team to do it. Yeah, true. They do have to deal with strangler giants, which is a scary thing for anyone to have to deal with. It's like having a huge wild population of werewolves that want to eat you. They're a little more manageable than most dragons since they can't fly. So the wing runners just build these big fenced in areas or these big gated areas. Yeah, TTRPG for the Codex, I think, would be just so fitting. And it would just work. So that will probably be some future Kickstarter campaign or whatever, depending on the scale that I decide to do it at. Yeah, he is kind of like a lizard converging on a tick. Let's see, I'm actually going to duplicate him once more. I'm going to mess with those front legs. I don't mind where they're at now, because they give him like a sort of strong gripping vibe, but I feel like I can make him a little more alien. And I could mimic those back legs a little bit. Humans have not managed to drive dragon species to extinction, not just yet. I think, and that kind of goes back to another reason for my making this setting, is that most dragon stories in the modern day are conservationalist tales, which is good, by the way. They should be, because many animals need protecting. They all do. And, uh, and it usually involves there being a last dragon, or dragons once were these powerful things and are now going extinct and need our protection, like many other beautiful animals in this world. But I think that story's been told so much, I wanted to tell another one. And I want my story to be the inverse and instead be of a world where nature is as cruel to humans as humans are to nature in our current world. So it's doing incredibly well, the natural world right now, in this setting. Yeah, this toe I think is a little more fun. Yeah, Future is Wild is an absolutely fantastic little series. I think it was my first speculative evolution. I was at a flea market with my mom, and I was like some younger. I forget how old I was, but she saw the fish on it, and she was like, "Oh, that's a creature. He likes dinosaurs. Let's get that for him." Put it on, and then boom, life trajectory changed. Yeah, the stranglers could probably climb a fence. I'd imagine these fences are well defended, of course, with wing runner fences being the pretty tall, taller than a strangler can just kind of step over, but also armed with, spikes and barbs and also actual like guard patrols with their giant killing spears. And of course, roving dragon riding patrols. It's a little more manageable than dealing with the dragons to the point where the wing runners can sort of make living on the surface possible. But it's still something they have to really like take care of and consider because those strangler giants they want to eat those dragons and now they see all these helpless people and they're like that's just as easy. Yeah, the flavors of being the once full of dragons and then there's too many bloody dragons. That's hilarious and very true. I always think the more dragons, the merrier. Who would win 1 million mosquito dragons or the sauropod dragon? Probably the sauropod, because he's got like 1 million mosquito dragons on him anyway. And he's doing alright. Imagine getting bit by a mosquito dragon. Yikes. Like as a human. It's gotta be like getting bit by a horsefly or worse. If I was to ride any of the dragons, oh, probably a hole taker. That one's like a very self-indulgent dragon. I designed him like what would be the coolest dragon that I could design that's totally just self-indulgent to my aesthetic preferences. And then the whole taker was born. That, and then I wanted to do a more classical type of dragon that just a variation of the hoarding thing. And he's got some wolf in him too, so he's like a big bad wolf that blows the house down. But the house is the whole like hive of humans. Oh yeah, SCAD. I did give a talk at SCAD. That was fun. I was talking at the about the Kickstarter. Yeah, Whole Taker just eating the armory. I don't think he's basic. He's meant to be very appealing. I like that a lot of people like him. Again, like I said, he was kind of my self-indulgent dragon. I just wanted to do a big cool guy. And he's also the like anti-Kinsbane. The Whole Taker is very social and will happily team up with other species of dragon to do all kinds of atrocities to humans. But the Kinsbane's the absolute opposite, and he just doesn't want anything to do with any other dragons, and he's very loner type. So they naturally come at odds with each other because they're both very large kinds of dragons. But the Hold Taker protects and ensures his brood of dragons of all different species are doing okay. The Kinsbane would try to eat both the uh, Hold Taker and his quarry or his kin. So they're kind of like natural opposites. Yeah, he's a kind of cute little lizard dude here, isn't he? Yeah, I also hate mosquitoes. I think that's a pretty tame opinion to have if you live in the south of anywhere near the equator. I appreciate what they do for the ecosystem, like you said. And, for bats, they eat them. But man, I love winter when they're all hiding. Let's see, where did the dogs originate? The my dogs come from a small coyote-like creature called the crag dog. And there are other canines as well, but the big dogs are all descended from the crag dog, which the hound keepers domesticated forever ago and turned into all these various forms. Legend of the Whole Taker and the Kinsbane team up. Yeah, that's like something that they had done. It's a legendary occurrence. They are natural enemies, but also, the world works in mysterious ways. That particular hold taker wouldn't have a brood of dragons to protect, and instead would just kind of work with the kinsbane to take down larger stuff for the kinsbane to eat. Kinsbane social natures aren't very well developed either. And that's a reason it doesn't happen all too often. Is even with their own young, once they reach a certain size, they just kind of go, "All right, time for you to get out of here." And then they look to their mate of that year and be like, "Hey, yeah, you too, get out of here." Since they have such an extreme way of life, one area can only support so many kinsbanes up to a certain size. Two is already pushing it, but any more than that, like once the young get to a almost adult size, that's just unsustainable. The kinsbanes are all about balance. In that way, the whole takers are a lot like humans in that they expand and they seek to assimilate other dragons. Usually, it's a more peaceful way than many humans assimilate other humans, in the sense that the dragons want the takers' protection. But again, something that puts them at odds. Whole takers squired by red racer that's tamed by humans. I don't think it would do well with humans. If it's squired by racers, I think racers are sort of flighty dragon, and it would do well once it's of a smaller size. But past a certain threshold, the burning hills make for poor uh, hiding places for a large hold taker. Suppose it could eat things when it's young, like the monkeys that pick the scales of the red racers, so that it's not actually eating red racers. Or maybe the cannaback, which is risky when it's still young, but maybe when it's older. Uh, and then, I don't know, I guess people, stranglers, A lot of adult hold takers will fly along coastlines and eat beached whales or beached krakens or beached sea monsters to sort of sustain their caloric needs if they can't find anything else. But they do like eating giants, so I suppose strangler giants would be a good choice for them. I described them as a dragon's dragon. And so they enjoy being around other dragons and working with them. And if a human gets in that way, I suppose they can get somewhat there, but it would be a battle of the egos. You try to tell it what to do, and it's like, oh, no, no, I'm the boss of this situation. I tell the other dragons what to do. Yeah, the streams are fun. I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. Yeah, would racers evolve like dogs? Probably down the line if the wing runners survive that long. Right now, they're very close to their wild form, uh, because they are kind of semi-wild in some way. That they still, if they're unable to be kept during their migration, they still leave. If the particular town can't keep them contained, and then while they're out, they often breed and come back with gravid with eggs or with young sometimes. So it's a little harder to control their who they're reproducing with to create desirable outcomes because they just kind of do it on their own. Let's see. Yeah, wing runners, if they ended up taming some bull takers, I'm sure that would be not a very good thing for them. Again, like I said, battle of the egos, because the whole taker wants to be the boss, and then the wing runners also want to be the boss, and that just does not end well. Wing runners, I don't know if they would resent Earth humans as much as they would aspire to them. They see how far people have gone with their science and with their, I guess, their domineering of the world, and they would want that for themselves. They have a sort of chip on their shoulder when it comes to the actual planet that they're on, the Wingrunners. They believe that it holds them down, and their success in the face of all that adversity in finding the burning hills and their tragic past as a refugee from some natural disaster. They think the world has tried to end them, and then they kind of bested it for a while in finding the dragons and being given the second chance. But they've been, not using that second chance as well as they probably should, since they're using it to do some of civilization's, I guess you could say, evils. But to them, I mean, they're not all evil, right? They have excellent health care, they have long life expectancies. It's a layered issue, you know. They're just not too pleasant to be around as a people, especially if you're from somewhere else. I mean, if you were talking about Codex dragons in the real world, that these aren't magical dragons, these are just large animals. And I'm sure any military whatever could mow through anything, but that's I think would end up just being a tragedy almost. Because this world is powerful in its state right now, this current planet. Uh, and of course, the evils of civilization, the sins of humanity, I guess you can call it that, are set to doom any world. So they just haven't been given the chance to develop that yet. Yeah, the old city of Hence, most kingdoms see it as a lesson uh, to not repeat that behavior. But then the wing runners think, well, they just didn't think ahead. They think they could do better. They're cooked. They're living on borrowed time. Wing runners have done more than Hence in some ways. They just don't have a big kinsbane on their on the mountain above them that's just waiting to annihilate them. So they're kind of like left to run unchecked. Yeah, exactly. The wingrunners are just people. They have a knack for being very ambitious in the sense that they they do love their animals. They love their dragons deeply, but even the lowest born wingrunner will do. anything to expand his influence, his sphere of influence, which will include stabbing others in the back. And that is just a cultural idea for them, is that sort of self-improvement in the face of the world is the greatest virtue a person can have. And that sounds nice until you realize their version of self-improvement is like, ratting each other out and one-upping each other. It creates a society that has great healthcare for whatever technological level they're at and great advancements, but it's also very cutthroat. And they're also extremely self-congratulatory. So, I mean, there's some give and take there. Yeah, yeah, see, I made them this way. You say that the only group of dragon riders you end up hating, and that is intentional. Because a lot of the time, the dragon riders are heroes. And I mean, that's understandable. Because they're sort of, I guess people want to see themselves in them. And I do too. I mean, everyone wants to ride a dragon. Uh, I just think, what would that influence actually do to somebody? And then that makes a really compelling sort of antagonistic force because they're so close to greatness. Wingrunners could do so much good beyond what they even already do. They could do so much good for the world, and then they choose not to once they actually have that power. And that's very interesting. Yeah, in terms of major wars, thankfully that's at I guess, a minimum, because as you said, there's a distance between the major kingdoms. There's all kinds of smaller tribes and smaller hives that affiliate with one another in different degrees. But indeed, it's harder for there to be these big kind of world wars or multi-kingdom wars when getting to each other is dangerous enough to that like even caravan riders are considered heroes for having survived as many journeys as they have. They get tattoos to commemorate these trips, kind of like seafarers of old. So if you bring a battalion out to go, I don't know, kill your neighbor that's across the sea, and then your battalion's just like eaten by krakens or dragons or whatever, was it even worth it? Yeah, exactly. There are bigger issues flying around than wars. The wars can happen. A lot of the time, it's more of internal conflicts with these hives, and they will maybe not like the leadership currently going on, or different elements that can create a conflict. Maybe there was a dragon attack that was handled particularly poorly on the executive side of it, and that creates a start of an internal issue. Or there's the Wingrunners, and they actually feud with the nearby Wilderglee raiders, which have a close relationship with the Karstmen. And since the Wingrunners enslaved the Karstmen, that's a whole problem where they'll take their dragons and use their dragon slaying knowledge to slay the Wingrunner dragons, and then take the riders and hang them off the mountainsides and hope some worse dragon will come over and eat them, or maybe the giants or something. That's probably one of the first real like blood feuds you have between nations. And of course, it happens with the Wingrunners because they're sort of trying to do what Earth humans do as best as they can. They live in a little protected paradise, but once they get too far out of that paradise, then they have to deal with the same dragon problems that everyone else does. Let's see, what do they think of the baboon people of Sunnyside? Uh, they have a limited exposure to them since the Sunnyside cynocephali are more seafaring, and the Burning Hills is very landlocked. So I think they've heard stories, and they might think. I think they would actually, in a way, respect their similar surface tendencies. The cynocephali live on cliff sides with semi-exposed homes. So they would see that and see like, oh, that's kind of like us. Interesting. But then who knows? I mean, some groups would think, oh, it's just another giant, add it to our ranks of indentured servants. In terms of other races, or other kingdoms, they don't even think that the hintermen exist. They just deny it. They live so far away from where the hintermen are that they hear tales of these opera singing half giants, basically. And they just go, no, these people just don't exist, and I won't be convinced that they exist. Even though they're there, they just refuse to have it. Hinterman denial, exactly. They just don't have any of it. They just don't want to believe it. Yeah, they would be probably have all kinds of unsavory things to say for high living people. And it's all a projection too, because at the end of the day, wing runners are essentially the same kind of people, but they've moved away from it a little bit. They have a history where after their ancestral group left their homeland, they were, of course, exiled essentially and had to find this new land. And in that, they developed their facial ridges and their fireproofing and their life as a prey animal. And they kind of lost that eusocial hive aspect. Let's say if a hinterman were to somehow get down and present himself, I think it would almost be funnier if the wing runner still denied it. Because I'd like to think that they just can't stand being wrong. So he'd see the hinterman and be like, well, someone check for the zipper on this costume. And if there's no zipper, he'd say, well, he must have some sort of genetic affliction. And then that's probably what they'd sit on. Or, oh, this is a species of giant that we have not yet discovered. This is no human. And he goes, no, no, trust me, I could do the opera thing and all that. And he goes, yeah, 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 anyone would sing. And then they just would refuse it. They have a better relationship with the peppermint, to answer that question, in the sense that there's some really southerly meeting points that they have. Some islands and such in the little ocean that kind of is between these two areas. And they trade some goods. They have an interest in the peppermint as mystics and potion masters and chemical makers. And they find that interesting. And in return, the peppermint are interested in the burn grass and what kind of chemical properties they can extract from it. And so they get their horoscopes from these peppermint and their potions. And in return, the peppermint get to get some resources that they don't get elsewhere. And they get to hear about their exploits. Storytelling is pretty big in the world. Since many people don't get out much, they prefer to be in a sheltered area. Any stories of what goes on elsewhere is always highly valuable. Dragon Slayer Codex 1 restock. I see your posts. Do not worry. I'm trying to get back into my account. If you didn't see the post, I was locked out of my account for selling too well. If it was up to me, I would have them up for sale right now. So I'm just trying to get in there. And I haven't even gotten paid for the first Etsy run. They're like withholding the money and everything. So we're trying to figure that out. Other drugs in the codex? Oh yeah, you know it. Something that kind of started as a bit of a joke, but I decided to make legit is Cannoback hoof for the wing runners. They grind it up and swear by it. Uh, Other groups like the chemical making peppermint have their own sort of concoctions made of various plant material. They all have their own sort of ways to sort of forget about the world. Everyone has their means of coping. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate this. Like, yeah, he's kind of hippo-esque. I've been enjoying working on him quite a bit. Let's see, we have the spider, we have him. Let's see, what's another freaky guy that I could get started on? Let's see. I know, right? Etsy is terrible for that. And it's annoying. It's like you'd think something that sells well, they would encourage someone to keep selling. But, you know. Let's maybe some sort of wormy creature could be fun. Okay, I'm just kind of ideating right now. Thinking of a parasitic kraken right now. Okay. No, not the worst. Yes, we got a little parasite kraken here. That's going to be a bit of an anomaly. The reason I'm doing this is there is some debate on where the wood warden actually originates from. Some scholars think that it came from the sea. That's how it got so big and hauled itself on the land at some point of its evolutionary history. Hence that sort of line worm body shape that other sea dragons kind of share. And then others think it has more terrestrial relations, kind of like the world boar that it might be related to. And what does not help is the convoluted history of its parasites. Some would say this little land kraken that lives in its on its body would be evidence of its oceanic origins, where others would say, well, no, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't count. It could be from anywhere. Kraken mouths are kind of like They're like worm mouths. They have the tentacles around them, but then they pull them in. It'd be funny to even call this a kraken. He's going to be very small. And krakens have predating? Sure. I mean, I have a whole uh, idea. Krakens are like a big group of animals, like how dragons are. So they have all kinds of different appearances. Something I'll really explore in that ocean themed sequel that I want to do after the giant book. What do I used to draw? This is Procreate on the iPad. Yeah, the ocean book's going to be great because there's going to be all this variety from sea dragons to krakens to a cool nautical aesthetic. It's just going to be fantastic. I cannot wait to work on it. Yeah, a gross sort of a ocean. That's very funny. That is true. It is a sort of nasty version of an ocean. This is a kraken that's almost going to be uh, resemble, or it's almost going to resemble its larval form more than typical adult krakens to maintain that small size. The sea dragons are fantastic. I want to do more of those as well. There will be more of those for the ocean book as well. The only reason I haven't been posting many of them that I have under development is because I might as well hold on for a little bit until I'm closer to actually publishing that book and having that book ready to go. I still have to get the part two of the Dragon Slayer Codex sequel out because I didn't cover all the dragon species in the first one, and I want to do two of them. The kraken is a worm, basically, kind of like a shore worm. At least that's what it's descended from, like those little creepy things you see on the beach. Rather than Shai Halud, I've got a ocean version. Yeah, like a neotenic kraken. Yeah, exactly. After him, I'll probably do a more sessile sort of parasite. Yeah, their body plan for parasites is pretty simple. Where when I restock the book, where will it be available? Ideally, it would still be on Etsy. 'Cause I found that very easy initially to work with. So if I can get past this issue I have with them, then I would like to kind of keep it there because I learned how that works and I don't want to learn something new. It sounds so anti-learning, but you know what I mean. Like I found something that just kind of works out, and I want to ideally keep it that way, especially if people know to go there for the books already. Yeah, again, super stoked that the stream is working out well enough. I'm glad I had to do these. I mentioned this in my previous stream, but for some reason, YouTube was giving me a harder time at different locations, or just Wi-Fi, I guess. But it was having the streaming be a little more difficult. So doing it this way is better than streaming on Discord because I can't record Discord streams. So there's a little less incentive for me to do them because they just kind of get lost to the void once I'm done. But this way, people can actually like watch it after the fact, and I think that's the coolest thing. Helps buff out the channel, the YouTube channel, while also, being something I'm working on anyways. Saves me time from having to write and edit a new video just to get something on the channel. Yeah, the worms here had more room to grow to answer that question. Again, this is a sort of post-extinction world where at the end of the last cataclysm, it was a huge like blank slate. So this is something similar to like the Triassic explosion or the Cambrian explosion. And worms were still present after everything died, so they did really well for themselves. And dragons were also present in more primitive forms, and so very basic forms, and so they also just took over. And other creatures, like little tenrecs that were hiding in the rubble, became large, successful predators alongside dragons and other larger creatures that happen to just survive uh, made it as well. Primates did well because they were intelligent enough to seek appropriate shelter and know what food to look for when. Just little things like that. Each group found its own way to survive. Kind of worms had, or worms are like indestructible, so they were just ready to go. And they became the krakens. And then the dragons are just so well armed and well equipped for all these different environments that they just brute forced their way in there. And like I said, primates used their brain over bones and became brawn. They became the giants. So, what was the dominant species before the extinction? That one I'm gonna have simmer for a little bit because humans live underground, so they have access to lots of fossil material more than people do now. At least earlier in their societal development than we do now. And so they found all kinds of weird stuff that they're still figuring out what that even is. And I'd like that journey to be sort of replicated along with the viewers as we're figuring it out with them, rather than just, spilling the beans, which would be a little bit less fun. Yeah, any plans for more proto dragons like the Maidstoker, Garden Worm, and Whisper Worm? Yeah, totally. I want to do a Garden Worm video that has more domesticated breeds of Garden Worm and some wild forms. So that would need me to draw more of that, and that's the only reason that video hasn't been made yet. It's because I need the time to actually draw all that, which could be another stream, honestly. Uh, if I finish this one soon enough, I could do like a little Garden Worm stream and then make a video out of it. Yeah, ground sloths did pretty well. I imagine the ground sloths or whatever came before them survived by living in their little caves. And again, it was a fairly indiscriminate extinction event. It was very tectonic, very tidal, related to the two moons. As y'all probably know, two moons can be kind of unstable. You create a lot of tidal power and even influence how the crust of the planet is pulled back and forth. And that has been the primary factor behind so many of the extinctions on this world is its two moons. It's just something that the planet has to deal with. So a lot of the time, the cards of life are reshuffled fairly often. That's how it keeps innovating and being so strange. Like, why are there certain animals that are fairly well developed? And you'd think that, kind of similar to the dinosaurs, that the dragons would cover every niche in the world. Why are there so many large, successful mammals? Well, they found their own way. Maybe they were already well established from some prior micro extinction, and then they're flipped. Yeah, the fossils are fun to draw too. I think I did some dragon fossil before, and that one is fun. Yeah, invertebrates do really well in the face of extinction. How did sheep survive out of everything? Well, There's always those little surprises. They did well by barely being sheep. They became all kinds of other things. Let's see. We got these guys so far. Uh, Still eyeing that mosquito guy. I might have to just redo his whole body. Who knows? I don't know. I'm not sure. For now, I'll leave him for now. Let's see. Next, we will do, I suppose, something akin to like some barnacle or some tick. Could redo the scale tick, honestly. Let's see. We've got. This is gross because now I gotta look at reference photos of ticks. Let's see. We'll draw him down here. Do the scale tick. What a nasty creature. So, scale tick I'm doing right now. The spider guy's a spider. The small chunky dragon, I suppose he can eat some parasites, but he's a parasite himself, and then he eats the dragon's scales. which then, of course, puts them in conflict with the scale tick that looks like a dragon scales. Someone who said it would make some interesting back and forth evolutionary uh, thing, and I do agree. Maybe the scale tick can develop its own set of poisons. He is actually really a sort of roided out tick because he needs to get through dragon skin. So he has these like sheet metal wire sort of mouth parts that really keep him adhered. Yeah, like a fungal parasite's a great idea. Something I'll probably do for another one on this sheet. Fungus in general is something that I want to explore. Humans eat a lot of fungal stuff, so I want to make some like species that people use in their day-to-day life, including domesticated species of fungus. In general, I want to do a big focus more on the actual undercity lifestyle of humans and how they go about their day to day. That's what my big poster style illustration was the start of, was the dragon rays, which was a guard morph human defending, or not really defending, more like suicide marching into a dragon attack. But I want to do more like that. Maybe compile them all into a big video about the humans of this world. Oh yeah, Dennis Overmore. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm glad to inspire. I mean, having a good reference image I have pulled up on another monitor is, I have, of course, the kind of gross looking ticks on another reference, but everything's doable, especially art. That's the best part about art, is that it's one of the most accomplishable things that anyone could do given enough time. That's why people who use the AI to do their art for them is just a sort of, I don't know, it's lame. On top of all the ethical concerns, it's just lame. Plumbing in the Undercities, well, yeah, it's like these caves run deep. It's not like a typical, kind of cramped earth cave. They tend to choose these big expansive spaces. So imagine something like an outhouse, and that's what they do. Human waste and other animal waste, whatever, could also go towards fertilizing their crops. And by crops, I mean like fungus and other underground things. They're very much a recycling culture. Nothing gets put to waste. I'd imagine some groups might cannibalize, but it might not be the norm. There's some extreme dragon surviving groups out there that do all kinds of crazy stuff. I guess you could say like a Roman's communal bathroom could be kind of similar. Yeah, shanty towns, that's a good point because there are some areas that are highways, underground highways made by the world boar, prehistoric world boars that were ginormous, that some say are still around. But those ancient highways connect some undercities and people use them to get around. And so you'll see these sort of shanty towns made of these whatever people had left over. If they didn't want to go further, they couldn't go further. Maybe it started with somebody wanting to sell something along the road. So this becomes this underground sort of navigation highway Silk Road situation. Yeah, internal parasites would struggle, many conventional ones, because of the dragon's heat. I'd imagine some creatures would evolve a resistance to the heat just naturally, because as things do, things tend to evolve. Uh, but that would make dragons pretty resistant to a lot of standard diseases. Outside ones kind of specialized for them. Kind of goes in line with their natural hardiness. Yeah, tips for slaying strangler giants. You would have an easier time breaking through their skin than you would with the dragons. So you can use all kinds of different ways. I suppose trapping them is the best method. If you have like a spike pitfall, or the best way that the wing runners deal with them is if the stranglers get up near the walls, you can have these big volley arrows or lances or spears or harpoons that you could shoot towards them. They're a bit quick though, so you need to do it when you know you got the shot. Some ring runners like to get a little cocky and actually take some dragon out to harass with the spear or the arrows from the dragon's back. Arrows kind of do poorly when firing from a mobile target, but if horse riders can do it, the dragon guys can do it. So let's get in this other leg, the other side of his limbs. That might be the scale tip. I suppose it would make a pretty interesting pet, right? The scale tech. You just keep him locked up pretty secure. It's like, Mom, can we keep it? I found it outside. So that's the scale tech. All right, let's see. So far, we got a whole bunch of them. We got our little kraken, our little lizard dragon guy. I'll have to figure out his exact phylogeny later. The mosquito dragon, who is still a work in progress, and the spider. Yeah, the wing runners would keep those ticks off of their dragons. I think I mentioned before, but they would take excellent care of those dragons. They love them more than they love themselves, which is pretty immense because they love themselves quite a bit. There are freshwater krakens, something I'd want to get into. The this kraken ends up so inland and in a dragon's bloodstream, and that ends up kind of an interesting sort of lore for these people. Because, like I had mentioned earlier, if you weren't here, just to catch you up, there's some debate over whether the wood warden is has an aquatic origin for its species or if it's land-bound. Like if it's closer related to something like the black marooner, which is stuttered, sorry. If it's similarly a lineworm like the black marooner, or if it's a lineworm like the uh, world boar, both two separate species that converge on that body plane. And so they don't know which line it comes from, and there's evidence of that oceanic origin with an oceanic parasite. But it could just be from any freshwater parasite or freshwater kraken that lives along this area. Let's see. Oh, yeah, the iron snail could be a very fun dragon creature. Still thinking about this little mosquito dragon and who I actually want him to end up. I suppose he's not terrible the way he is. Uh, how big do freshwater krakens get? Well, I suppose depends on the species, but I would think they'd be smaller than their oceanic cousins. Hmm. See, snail. I'm kind of vibing with the idea of a snail. I don't know. Let's see. What could he do? I know he could eat stuff on the dragon's body and convert it into mineral, but that's essentially the scale tick. So I don't want to retread ground. Uh, hmm. Thinking. Tongue-eating parasite is what I'm trying to think of right now, or something like it. I got an insect parasite in here. Little tick down there. See, I mean, the louse. I feel like just doing the louse is a bit of like a cheap shot, but it is a cool idea, so I'm gonna give it a go. Yeah, maybe so. I'm not crazy about how that's coming out. Fake tooth. How about a fake tooth? Parasitic plant's not a bad idea. They all kind of are. They're like a symbiotic plant in a way, in that the plants are actually like in its body. They root down to its bloodstream and feed the woad warden after a certain size. See, being a dragon doesn't sound so pleasant with all these parasites running around. Because once you're so big and powerful, there's a point where the little guys that you can't even reach start to feast on you more than any pesky human with a spear could. And that's the real threat. Dragons would probably care more about parasites than they would any human. And in a fruit social species like the red erasers, I'm sure parasites is a big problem because they could just spread dragon to dragon like it's nothing. Possibly taking over a tooth. I don't know. Part of me kind of likes the idea of it being the shell looking like a tooth. Because I imagine people like collecting that. It's just different enough. Well, yeah, actually, that does, I'm thinking about it, it does make sense, that point about just infiltrating a tooth. A dragon with a mouthful of parasite, snail, fake teeth would be quite the sight. Like a dragon with a grill, probably be pretty useful up to a point. But ouch, imagine how bad that would hurt. This will be a fun post. I look forward to seeing this one out. Because it's just so novel. A bunch of dragon parasites there. You tend to think of dragons as untouchable. I certainly portray them that way. So having the dragon's worst enemy be something so much smaller than it is just so fun. So finishing touches, possibly. Nice quick one here. Yeah, those roots would definitely hurt. I think they would go down deep into that tooth cavity and just kind of root itself in there. There you go. Yeah, not too shabby. So far, we got this little roster building up of fun. I'll give these guys a pretty nice little watercolor wash once they're all done. It would probably definitely give some sort of anesthetic because a toothache with a dragon would be he would probably end up ripping his own half his teeth out and just waiting for him to regrow. So we need to be kind of stealthy about it. Let's see. Uh, really, really, really happy. Symbiotic relationship with that snail. I mean, maybe some dragons have natural metallic teeth. Uh, though I'd imagine some would maybe find that desirable, evolutionarily speaking. Have an entirely gummy dragon that relies on those snails. Maximum size of parasite could be, again, depends on if it's a world warden, they can get away with being like dog sized, like small dog. Uh, kind of like this lizard here. But if it's a standard dragon from anything else that's not warden size, I think it'd have to be pretty small. Like maybe standard parasite size, maybe slightly bigger for more robust species. Trying to speed run this road warden, it's not working very well. Because it's Not necessarily the head. I should just honestly copy paste the existing headline art, but you know, a little extra. The gigantic landworm is the road warden, and that's what I kind of went into this with in mind. A lot of these parasites belong to him, and so his parasites are almost megafaunal. Not megafaunal, but unless you count, you know, something like a dog is a megafaunal. Yeah, megafaunal parasites. Yeah, for a parasite, I'd say they count in parasite terms. Teeth snails would indeed cause some degree of discomfort. There's only so far a natural anesthetic can go. Especially once it gets terminal, I'd imagine it'd be like a toothache quite a bit as it grows. This is just a place marker for value blocking because I'm not trying to make this wood warden necessarily too detailed because the focus would be on this parasite. But yeah, the scale ticks have a certain utility to them up to a certain point. We have our little eye parasites now. Little master critters. Super sharks indeed. Yeah, it's a very grotesque little moment here. Yeah, it's eating for this stream is a very funny idea. It's the parasite stream, you know. I'll probably do other ones when I'm just like kind of drawing standard dragons that people can join and enjoy. But this is a little bit of a grosser stream. Yeah, using the eye parasite as rope is a disgustingly clever idea. It is a noodly sort of parasite. To be eating spaghetti. That's very funny. I'm gonna make that eyelid swollen. Wormies. What species cleans the dragon parasites? Well, that would be mostly for the woad warden's case, it'd be this spider up here. It creates these sticky web-like substances that help plant the plants on the wood warden when they're developing, but also they feed on the creatures that this mini ecosystem sort of draws in, which includes the parasites. It's not just the spider, of course. I'd imagine there's any number of young dragons, dragon elves, things like that that come in. The spider probably would also eat, if you're asking what it eats that's harmless to the wood warden. I suppose anything that kind of gets in its way, like a little dragon, maybe a juvenile dragon, baby little hold takers that come to check out, I don't know, some dragon's presence in the form of the wood warden. There you go. Gotta make those parasites the brightest thing on space so that they really pop. And then I'll throw some color on there too. Yeah, nest nannies are kind of like that. They protect the nest in exchange for all kinds of protection. In a similar way, you know, that young hold takers do. They clean the nest, but I'd imagine they'd also protect it from smaller predators that adult dragons might overlook. Mosquito dragon, bane of my life. Frequent nest raiders that the nannies have to deal with. I suppose any kind of small little creature across the world that would, get in there from could be tenrecs, could be uh, little lizards, little creatures. I know even humans, brave humans, but still. I don't know how I'm feeling about the little crocky people. Just experimenting. Crocodiles, in the lore, I do mention them. I guess I haven't drawn many of them because I guess they just look so similar to dragons, just crocodiles in general. But I do like to think that they are there. In some degree or other. I like to also imagine that they don't just take that uh, semi-aquatic route. You know, they might have other opportunities for their evolution. Yeah, I'm imagining with this sort of eye setup, this would be a sort of dread eye cousin or relative, maybe in the same group. Instead of being a sit and wait genius sniper dragon, he becomes a lowly mosquito dragon. Yeah, past crocodilians have a really good run. Mm, be funny to give them these little slits. I don't know. I'm just trying things out. Uh, my crocodilians for the codex, and I haven't drawn any yet, mind you, but they would probably be herbivorous land animals. I'd want the aquatic ones too, because I think it's humorous how they happen to survive every mass extinction ever thrown to them. But yeah, little herbivore crocodilians could be fun, either if they're little or big or whatever. Little hog-nosed snake egg eater dragons? Well, sure, sure thing. Could see that being a kind of guy, particularly for the smaller dragons, which are another one I want to get more into. I considered doing a whole companion book on small dragons, and if that garners some interest, that might be worth doing. Yeah, like I'm liking this more. The big, really big eyes make him look small, and that's good because he is small. Trying out little teeth. They're like not even visible, but that's fine. Hmm. Okay. All right. Let's see. Sorry for being a little quiet. I'm just thinking, formulating, scheming, the works. Oh, thank you very, very kindly. Appreciate that. Oh, I got an idea. Let's give him a new neck. Just a little bit. Nothing crazy. Let's see. I'm gonna give him a little noodly neck. Yeah, too much. I'm just playing around right now. Let's see. Trying to see what I want from him. I can always go back to the old neck as well. I had it saved. What tool do I use? This is Procreate on the iPad. I can't help but make this guy cursed. It's what I do. He's a little derived freak. He needs to be kind of cursed. Eh, hold on. Yeah, book on the smaller dragons. Funny you mentioned that endless ocean. I have a few ideas for companion books. One of them is on tracking dragons. Another one, like a pocket guide, right? Another one is a list of the existing species, but condensed, almost like a real pocket guide. The other one is on the small dragonelles. So hold on one second. I'll be right back. Behave. All right, I return. Okay, let's see. Let's catch up. Have a nice little coffee. All right. How are we doing, everybody? Yeah, everybody did good. This is what's great about the stream is that it really does force me to lock in and draw. Like we've been streaming for about 3 hours now, and that's that's 3 hours of no distraction because I'm talking to you guys. Yeah, see, y'all make me work, but it's good. It's in a good way. So scrunchy crane neck, maybe. I don't want him to. I don't know. He's kind of plucky. That's the vibe I get. A big old crop. Yes, exactly. The elevated eyes are so that you could people watch on his surroundings while feeding. So separating scales as his throat expands. He's like a kindred spirit to those other bloodsuckers that I have. As the nutcracking dragons, I would say expect those guys in um, like a Dragonale little book with smaller forest dragons or some such. I do have one guy that does eat a lot of fruits and nuts, and he is so he's a little dragon you don't do too much with. Unfortunately, I should move on. He's a little sea dragon or coastal dragon, rather. Yeah, Bloodbelly, that's the one. I have so many dragons, sometimes their names escape me, like my mind, when I'm in conversation. Makes me a bad dragon parent. Did not know that toucans had transparent skin. That's cool. Oh, the smoke one, the Veilright, that one actually eats like leafy plants that are poisonous. I'm talking about some other guy. I can't remember his name right now. Rather than a flappy dewlap, he actually inflates this with all the juicy goodness he gets from the Road Warden's body. See, the Wood Warden became so huge as a partial defense against other dragons, but then it just becomes a parasite hellscape. Like, you'd almost rather deal with the Great Kinsbane because it's just big and you can see it and it's rare. It's like a rare kind of creature to come across. But these guys, I'd imagine this is a mosquito dragon. They survive every mass extinction. They'll be there forever. Green grocer, that's the one that eats the fruits. That's him. And the nuts. Yes, I can always rely on you guys. Yeah, a little pellet gun like his cousin, I think is a pretty fun idea. Have like a small baby version. See. Yeah, I like this little throat sack. It's kind of pulling them together. The scale eater, yeah, yeah, you can have a look at him. Look at him. Very nice. Little lizard thing, reptilian creature, amphibian, whatever he is. No one knows what he is. It's just a fella. Translucent skin. That's fun. Yeah, the little tusks on the scale eater. His whole head acts kind of like a wedge. He gets that jaw in there, and then he kind of like peels forward. Uses that strong neck to like lift upward and pop that scale out. Hmm. These wings, I'm still sitting on them. I have like a million copies, so I'm gonna try something real quick. I'm gonna try something. Bear with me here. Yeah, I'm sure some people could eat these parasites, particularly the people of the Worldbuilding who live in all like the dragon bones and stuff. So I want to get this shape right. Feels like something very narrow is kind of fitting for him. Hmm. Maybe even tucked. Maybe the real key is just giving him his wings some tuck instead of holding them up vertically. Hmm. Well, I'm getting somewhere. I'm getting somewhere. I like how this particular shape is echoing nasty mosquito, like long legs. Maybe his tail could do the same thing if we add it up like this. Let's see. Maybe something pterosaur-esque. How long does it take to do each of these drawings? That's kind of hard to say. I think it depends. This one's taking the longest so far because it's a little more involved. It's a nice funky line. Yeah, this dragon probably uses some kind of heat sensor. That's what the his cousin does. A sniper dragon. Give him some veiny wings. I'll have to see. I don't want him to be too. And he's insect convergent. He's not like an insect himself. You know, that's a thin line. But I don't hate the idea. I don't know. Kind of like a really skinny tail on him. Kind of gives him that buggish vibe. Hmm. Okay. It kind of gives like a similar feel as the veiny look without actually being veins from like an insect wing. It's like a happy compromise. Low joints where he has them. He's very small, so his joints are kind of more delicate than in other dragons. Yeah. Oh man, that's a great kid. Yeah, I'd imagine he would. I have a phylogeny tree of these dragons on the way. We should show some interesting relationships. Thank you, Pleasant Dashi. Yeah, I think the new wings are eccentric enough to be quite interesting. And they're big too. They have like a big wingspan, yet they're insectoid without being just bug wings. It's a pretty happy medium. Yeah, these dragons of mine, they go through all kinds of iterations as I go. So like that's where a lot of my species ideas come from or reject ideas from previous ones. So those hands of the other design might show up somewhere else. You never know. Yeah, I don't know. Would this be? I guess it could be like this would be the hand bones, I suppose. Be like having a long hand. And then yeah, the rest would be right here. The fume horn was inspired by a really old Hellmaster, and yeah, yeah, I'm really pretty happy with how this little bug guy is coming along. I was very not too happy with him at first, but now it's he's becoming something cool. Since this is the base, maybe I could have a little fun core up here. Wanna pretty funky. Yeah, I wonder what the color of him is going to be interesting. As you bring up a good point, endless ocean, that he could just be a standard like mosquito color scheme, but I think he can afford to be really colorful. We'll see. It depends on what looks good on him because he's so skinny that there's only so much like pattern you could do that isn't just like stripes. How big is he? He's tiny. He's just a he's like a little creature. I don't know about a rainbow neck. It might be a little crazy. Yeah, transparent wing is the thought I'm going for. The blood belly has a sort of mosquito-esque color scheme, and I'm not trying to replicate that. Well, more in the sense that I already did that. So I'd want to do something this. Hmm. Let's lighten this up. Because I do like the idea of a semi-translucent wing. Parasitic snail? Well, I have one up here. Mimics a dragon's tooth. The environment of this dragon, he lives in an area called the Wilderbloom, which I have a post on my Instagram about, but if you don't know, it's where this huge dragon called the Wood Warden lives. And the environment's made out of the bodies of both living and dead Wood Warden. And so it creates this interesting sort of very bioactive land. And these little mosquito guys feed on the giant dragons, of course. They could also be found in Sorrowwood, in swamps, where they do fairly well, and they inhabit the same habitat as the gut butchers that have. So that's a crazy combo to meet. Blood infection, yeah, he's kind of flood-esque with those like tendrils. The tendrils then hook into the gums of the tooth socket. Let's see. Would it be worse or better to live in the tar barrens? I think it depends. I mean, you have less dragons to contend with than other locations. So, I mean, you could deal with just the clatter draws, and it's not that bad. But you also live in the tar barrens, so there's that aspect. It's very cold there. There's not a lot to do or to see. The people who live there are kind of drown in religion as their cope. They're like Catholics, uh, very guilt centered. I could say that because I was raised a Catholic. Yeah, I think this guy would come in like an endless variety of species. These little mosquito dragons would be just everywhere. Yeah, the chicks would be tiny. Yeah, the clutter does make that place pretty nasty to be in. Yeah, the youth of this particular species would be interesting, like the chicks. Uh, Honestly, I would imagine them to be smaller versions of the adults, ready to go pretty much immediately, like little crocodiles or something. They just kind of are born and they're like, all right, let's go. Yeah, born and all right, let's go. Exactly. He is for sure a mosquito dragon, but I don't know if I'll call him that. That's his name. It might be a little on the nose. Giving him little veins in his wings that kind of look like mosquito veins, but are just like blood vessels. Especially if the wings are translucent. Let's see. I'm sure that these guys kind of gather in giant groups just by coincidence. In terms of sociality, I'm unsure. They might be. I mean, in terms of socialness, probably just in turn they stay in a group for security. But their cognitive powers, I don't imagine being as developed as their cousin. They would probably be a contender for some of the least intelligent dragons out there, just by virtue of their tiny size and sheer instinctual nature. These guys, pets? Maybe. I mean, stick your arm in there and let him suck on your blood for a while. Possibly. It would hurt after a few sessions, though, I think. Because he is a little bigger than a mosquito. Too small to think. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Spamming babies is their method of reproduction. Our entire lives are just short-lived and based on parasitizing something else, and then dying, and then shooting out a ton of babies. He might be hummingbird-esque. I'm not sure. I don't know if this wing anatomy lends itself to that. Yeah, like a medical leech could be a funny use for them. Snails? I mean, I guess. They're kind of specialized to the fluids, so they'd probably just like drink snail fluids or something. Yeah, that could be a reason. Magma feline. Dragons need a lot of metal, and at this certain size, that's hard for him to get. Or a hole taker could just like consume mineral ore or just straight up metal itself. Other dragons get it from Just the environment mostly. Kinsbane get it from eating other dragons. Uh, but him, he gets it from drinking dragon blood. Same thing for the blood bellies. Except blood bellies are like larger. I have a drawing I've yet to post, but it's just kind of taking the two renders of the clatterjaw and the blood belly and putting them next to each other to show their size comparison. I'll be thinking about wrapping in a few minutes. I do want to get to a good stopping point though. Maybe these will stay dark, maybe they'll be colored, who knows? Alien Earth, I do not know. That doesn't necessarily ring a bell. I might have though. Look at all these parasites, all these freaky guys. These came out pretty good. I think once I wrap up this dragon, that might be all for the parasites. I feel like 7 animals is more than enough. I could always do more, but in terms of just the challenge for the day that I have, because then I could start painting these guys too, and giving them a nice little wash. Yes, these will be in the second book. Creepshow on the page, yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, these feel like there's a pretty diverse parasite roster here. The worm-looking one is a kraken. It's a very tiny kraken, but it lives inside the woodworm. Spider fellow, yeah, I suppose you could use the plier thing, but he's actually quite artistic. He makes these matted webs and gardens the plants that exist on the Lord Warden's back. So he's more of a symbiote type of parasite, if you could even call him a parasite. In terms of if you mean little spider, if you mean him, that's a tick, a scale tick. The fungi, I do agree, would be a pretty good idea. Yeah, I might do another stream tomorrow actually as well. I have a lot of comparative free time this week. Classes have yet to start, and while I fix things like Etsy, I can wait for replies. I could do things like stream. Depends. Well, I might be back tomorrow. We'll see. I'd like to, but I'll see if anything needs tending to first. Might do another parasite. Might call it at these guys. I'm not sure. Depends. Part of me just wants to start coloring them and then have the page ready for my smallest day. But we'll see. Yeah, streams galore. Yeah, this is like a great moment for me to be able to actually stream for once. And record it after, which is crazy. That's the big incentive why I'm doing so much, is I'm actually able to have these as recordings afterwards, which is a huge incentive. Just finish his food, but I don't know because I don't want to draw the other land, so I might not draw the other foot. Because if you do the other foot, then you got to do the other wing. Yeah, I'm glad you like the stream. I want to do more of this as long as I'm able. My Wi-Fi in my apartment at school will let me. Okay. I think this is as good a time as any to call it. This is the progress for today's stream. I'll just update the thumbnail to reflect all the new cool stuff we added. But yeah, thank you guys for joining. See, we will pick this up possibly tomorrow. We'll see. If so, then we might either be coloring these guys or maybe doing something all new. You tell me. Uh, you guys, I mean, I've been streaming for almost 4 hours. So to those of you who've stuck around, thank you, big time. That's pretty huge. It's cool to be able to share my process like this. Uh, Yeah, thanks for enjoying the cool, funky parasites. I hope the final page lives up to their nastiness. So,